Hello, and welcome to another episode on Paving the Way podcast. I'm Seth Moa, aka SA. I'm here with Kenny Jean-Louis, aka KJL. And today we're here with someone who's been coaching for a while, who's brought the program to, I guess, let's say, from the bottom up, started from the bottom. Now we're here. And he's been pretty known across Canada, one of the top programs in Canada, and definitely probably the top program in Quebec. Mr. Michael Chmielewski.
Merci d'avoir accepté l'invitation. Seth t'a envoyé un message, puis directement t'as dit oui. Puis je pense qu'il y a beaucoup de personnes qui vont apprendre de qu'est-ce que tu vas nous dire aujourd'hui, joueur, coach. Donc, merci encore, man, d'avoir accepté.
Thanks for having me.
Donc, la première question, c'est quand la passion du basketball a commencé pour toi?
Ça a tout commencé en tant qu'enfant, dans les années à l'école primaire, dans la rue. J'ai eu la chance de jouer à tous les sports, essayer tous les sports qui étaient accessibles dans le temps facilement. Le soccer dans la rue, dans les parcs, le hockey de rue. J'avais même, je pense, essayé le baseball, mais le baseball, j'avais moins aimé. Je l'ai essayé une ou deux fois. Le basket, c'est venu un petit peu plus tard parce qu'il n'y avait tout simplement pas de panier dans mon quartier dans le temps. C'est arrivé plutôt vers l'âge de 9-10 ans dans notre cours de récré à l'école. C'est là que j'ai découvert le basket, puis tranquillement, c'est le sport que j'ai choisi de pratiquer de manière plus sérieuse, puis que j'ai commencé à vraiment aimer. Puis, disons, j'ai eu la chance de découvrir la NBA dans les années 90. Puis ça l'a juste donné ce que ça l'a donné.
Did you know, I guess, around when you started playing basketball, what you want to do with the sport, or were you just playing for fun at the time?
Playing for fun, but also very competitive at it. I mean, we were always a competitive bunch. My groups of friends at school or the neighbors, you know, everybody plays to win at that age also. Like, it's cool scoring goals on a hockey net or making a shot or scoring a goal in soccer. Like kids like to compete and just, it's almost natural sometimes when you do pick up a sport to push yourself. So when I picked up basketball, like, I wanted to make the team in high school. That was objective number one. Then I wanted to be in the best players of the team, right? But that didn't happen because there was other good players on the team. But I still wanted to improve and I wanted to play, you know, as long as possible. And I would lie to say that, you know, at a certain age, I wasn't dreaming to play in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
It's everybody, I don't care who you are, at some point in your life, if you played basketball, that dream comes along. I mean, I would imagine it did for me. I did realize later on when I was a little older that there was a lot of good players around and that would probably not be possible, but that didn't hold me back from continuing to play in parks, playing against very good players that played in university, and just keep playing the game as long as possible in rec leagues or school leagues or whatever.
Okay. Where did you play in high school and CJEP, and you say you play a little bit university? Where did you play?
I did not play university. I did show up for a tryout and understood pretty quickly that it would be very difficult to balance academics and athletics at that time. I was also a little unsure of what I wanted to do school-wise, and I just wanted to make sure I wasn't dropping the ball there. I kept playing afterwards. So I played high school ball at my high school.
Which high school?
Sorry, was that?
Which high school?
Jean-de-Brébeuf.
Okay.
I actually played there, you know, got accepted to that school. I had no idea that they had a very good high school program at the time. And when we had orientation there, it was revealed that it was a top high school program. Oh, well, if they have a top high school basketball program, I got to play on that team. The other sports didn't interest me. So, went through a tryout and made the team, played there in high school up till grade 9 or 10, I believe. And I finished in inner city. I played in the MBL afterwards to finish off high school. And then in CEGEP, I played. There's not a lot of options when you're in CEGEP. So I was still at Brebuef in CEGEP, played for them. We weren't very good. We played against some very good teams back then. It was an interesting experience. And kept playing after CEGEP, didn't play in university, kept playing in rec leagues here and there. And slowly towards the end of my university degree, I got into coaching.
Okay. I know your brother plays basketball. So is it because of you he started playing basketball from a young age? I guess when he saw you playing, or that any influence?
No matter the sport he would have chosen, he would have been pretty good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, there's a bit of years of difference between the two of us. Like there's 7 years. If there had been less years difference, say like 2, maybe he would have gone his way. But I'm thinking like when I started playing organized basketball, he started playing organized basketball. The difference was I was 12 and he was 5. So he started playing mini, which didn't really exist when I was 5, but it did when he was. And I told him, hey, you want to play ball, go play at Sun Youth. It was the closest program, and it was a very, and still is a very good program. Yeah. So I guess you could, it's a natural thing. You see your bigger brother, much older brother at the time. Okay, you want to do the same thing,
Yeah. Would you, I guess at Sun Youth at that point when he was, because I remember him as a player, he was pretty good, when he was playing, would you coach him on the side?
Well, yes. And when I was in high school, I was still like worried about getting better myself and like trying to survive on the team with bigger and better players and still making the team year in and year out. But every now and then I would go see his game and it's sort of bigger than you sometimes. It's in the nature of you're cheering, but you're also trying to tell him what to do if he's making a mistake. And it's not necessarily a good thing, but it's also pretty natural. Like I see it today when I'm coaching, and sometimes it doesn't happen, but sometimes it does. It's sort of like there's something that takes over a bit, that makes you want to coach the person that's close to you while they're playing, right? And distraction sometimes. So,
and at what moment coaching crossed your mind? And Adam was the first person that you coach, or you coach?
I never really coached Adam. I just brought him to the parks. I played. He would always tag along. At a certain age, when he was able to challenge me, we started playing more one-on-ones and coaching officially. There's a difference between being a big brother and telling him what to do and actually getting into coaching. And coaching started towards the end of my university degree. By then I was only playing once or twice a week in leagues, and then I would catch whatever game he could play because he was very good in high school, and I would cheer and all that and try to help from the sidelines. And eventually it started getting into my mind. I was like, I could probably coach. It doesn't look that complicated. It looks very logical to me. You need to score more points than the other team. And I had no idea about all the, I had some ideas of strategies from my playing days. So one thing led to the next. I went to an alumni tournament. Then I said to the organizers, I'd like to coach or try out coaching in a camp. Went to coach at a camp for negligible pay. And at the end of that camp, they said, well, do you want to take on a team? Our program. I said, sure. I took on the grade 7B team. So meaning that was like the most developmental team of the program. So, like there's 30 kids playing in grade 7. I'm getting the second 15.
Okay.
So I start out with I don't want to call them the lowest group, but I start lowest group. And a few weeks in, during lunchtime, one of my very good friends, who we would cross paths sporadically, just happened to be in the same cafeteria as me, and he says, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm coaching the 7B team," and he's like, "Well, I'm coaching the CJEP team. Do you want to be my assistant coach? I'm looking for someone. I haven't been able to." Fine, I'm all in. And, so right off the bat, I started coaching or helping out with 2 teams.
Okay. What was the, I guess, when you started coaching, what did you find difficult? I know it's a 7B team, but was there anything that was surprised you?
The 7B team wasn't like the challenges are different from group to group. So like the group, like we're talking about 12-year-olds, you're basically teaching, passes, shooting on a wall, shooting form, shooting technique. Like we're playing with smaller balls. So a lot of them never picked up a basketball. It's crazy to say today, but back then, today kids are starting or picking a sport earlier and earlier. But back then, we were picking our sport later and later. Like I picked basketball, I was 12. It was the same thing for these kids. So they were picking up basketball. And I think the first or second game, I coached with that group. I told the kid's name was Frank. I said, Frank, go in for George. I don't remember who he was going in for. And he gets up and he sprints right onto the court. We get a technical foul. It's like, yeah, it's not hockey. To go up to the scorer's table, like they had no idea.
Yeah.
They're picking up the sport for the first time. So you can imagine it's very different from coaching a CJEP squad who, like, from the first year had talent on the team, like really good talent. Guys I've never heard of. And they were all like 100 times better than at my best, So that was a different challenge. First time ever, and you're coaching players that were able to perform at a much higher level than you ever were able to, and it's your first year coaching. That's a challenge also, right? Like, how do I give him feedback? How do I earn athletes' trust?
Yeah.
That's all things in my mind.
And how you did that, like.
Yeah, like, so, because I know for a fact, like, meeting someone who I have no idea who it is, obviously the trust factor is not there. I kind of shy away. So how did you do it?
I made mistakes, but I think what helped me was I was open-minded to observing how they would react to my feedback. And I was like, oh, that must have been the wrong tone, or that was too direct, or, too much too soon. Right. So maybe it's not the time yet, and I was like, I don't know how old I was, 22 when I picked up coaching, 23. And these were 18-year-old, 19-year-olds, the age difference wasn't huge. It was big enough, but it wasn't huge. But the experience was very similar in the game. So I had to have moments of retreat and truly like understand what my place in the team was at the time, right? Only that, I came in 2 weeks later. They already went through a preseason training camp or whatever, or tryouts. Here's this new guy coming in, no one knows me, except for the head coach. It's a challenge in itself to make your spot. It's the same thing for a player, right? They find their role in the team. Well, back then, even the assistant coach had to sort of find their place in the team.
Puis tu dirais, ça t'a pris combien de temps pour être confortable puis que tu sois comme confiant de tes habiletés?
Confident in my ability, that
Mhm.
didn't take long because I've always been a thinker of the game. I was always confident about what I could bring to that group or a certain group in terms of my knowledge and what to work on and like just how to analyze what was going on. So that it didn't take much time. It took considerably more time building the relationship of trust or just like where I could just coach from a certain point, just coach freely, quick, snappy, and they would understand what I was saying. And, you know, at like, well, I don't understand what you're saying. So it's like, all right, take them aside and have a discussion. And it's not super efficient. And you're just trying to make sure that they understand your message. Meanwhile, the rest of practice is going on. So finding the quote unquote sweet spot took a while. I don't know how much time in terms of weeks or months, but it took a while, right? If I think about it today, it took a while. Back then, I was probably not even thinking about that, right? I was just thinking, get your recul, comme on dit. When you take a step back is when you realize, okay, yeah, you know, creating that relationship or that link between the coach and the student athlete takes far more time than building confidence in or your technique teaching or whatever.
How long were you an assistant coach for?
2 years.
2 years, and then
By my third year, I took over the team.
So how was that? So you went from coaching 7B to 2 years assistant coach. And you're head coach, all that in 4 years.
Oh, I was
guys.
hungry to. All right, I know what
hold on.
Okay, Safi.
How long did you coach? How long were you assistant coach for?
The first 2 years.
2 years. So you went from coaching 7B to being assistant coach for 2 years, and now
I was with the 7Bs.
Yeah.
I was the head coach.
Yeah.
Practiced 3 times a week for like an hour and a half. And I was an assistant coach on the CJEP side in the first year. The second year, I was an assistant coach on the midget, so grade and CJEP. And by the end of my second year, I was like, all right, I want to go all in on one team, practice, implement my vision or, just my approach. So by the third year, I was a head coach of one team, and that's it. Like coaching too many teams in the same year is, it's a suggestion that I give to a lot of younger coaches that get into coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Blame them for I'm going to coach this team, coach this team, but it's just like a teacher. A teacher in school can't teach 45 students at once in one class, and every teacher would like to have a smaller class. There are circumstances, right? It's the same thing with coaching. If I'm coaching 3 teams, I'm split. So by the end of the second year, I was already thinking, okay, I'm only going to go with one team.
Okay.
As of my third year.
And you went for the, I believe it was the Brebuef, the D2 team?
Yeah, the CJEP AA team back then. I was also helping out at Sun Youth for a year or 2.
Okay.
Jits or juveniles. That was also very fun, a little different, but just as rewarding.
Okay.
Est-ce que durant ce temps-là, tu avais des mentors, peut-être des coachs de Montréal ou Québec ou peut-être de NBA ou NCAA, que peut-être tu prenais des petits trucs ou toi, c'était tes propres trucs, genre?
So back then, the access to information wasn't what it was today, what it is today. Today, first of all, everything, you can find a lot of stuff free. Back then, you had a budget because there wasn't a lot of coaching material that was free. Like you wanted to go get a book, it was $20. You wanted to order a DVD online, it was $40, and you'd have to wait 3 weeks before it arrived. So there was a lot of that, like just browsing the web through like subjects that you wanted to see, some coaches, but certainly subjects, because it was a whole introduction to like, I was a player for a long time. I had no idea who the coaches were, except for like the top NBA guys. And then I'm getting into coaching and I'm discovering this world where, wow, okay, there's a whole profession here. There's a ton load of coaches, and they're giving clinics about this subject, that subject, like breaking down the game. So all of a sudden, you know, to limit in the early days, to limit it to one or two mentors would be impossible. I mean, I think on my third year, or was it it was my third year, I believe, we drove down to Cleveland for a clinic, and a lot of big NCAA coaches and some NBA assistants were giving presentations on, 1 hour presentations on a subject. So then I was picking up on stuff and I was starting to figure out, what was my style or what I preferred or what I was, I identified with more as an approach to coaching. And in terms of like mentorship, it would be like the close circle back then. There was a good group of coaches at Brebuef. They're not coaching now. They've all moved on, but we used to have 1 or 2 get-togethers a week after practice. When everybody would be done with their practice, we'd head over to the closest resto bar and like spend an hour or two and chat. So that was like a, I guess you could say mentorship or self-coaching, just a brain of ideas. And, it would be just like asking the older coaches, like, what book should I read or who should I concentrate on? And yeah, you had to be a bit creative back then.
Yeah.
Thousands to get information.
And you think that was maybe positive because you had to put the work in, or you think like you would have rather have all the information, like I guess young coach have now? Like
I wouldn't take back anything that happened then. I don't regret anything. It is different today. There's far more access. There's far more people posting things, and people are like, yeah, do you have to do less work to find out, less research to find out about a subject? Sure. But there's also a different challenge that has arisen, in the sense that you almost have too much access and you can fall into these traps of checking out too many things at once and not really developing your own style anymore, or your own philosophy or your own approach. Because now you have access to the playbook of the Boston Celtics. Well, I'm going to apply the Boston Celtics playbook. But meanwhile, you haven't developed maybe your own identity as a coach. Those are bigger, challenges today.
No, that's true. Yeah. When you started coaching the D2 team, did you have a vision of where you wanted to go with them, or were you like, you know what, I'm starting from the bottom, I don't know what's going to happen?
So we were starting from the bottom, and the coach that I was coaching with, who let me take over, was already building it, and it was already at a good level. But that program at the CJEP level had never won a provincial championship in any sport, I believe. So, I was thinking short term. I have an ego. I have a competitive ego. Basketball is a competitive world in Montreal.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last recreational game that I've played in, whether it be at DJ Sports or any other league, that it didn't turn out to be like a competitive game. It's sports at a certain age, So in the short term, I was like, well, we can win and we can bring something to this program that hasn't happened before, right? Which was a provincial championship in CJEP, which hadn't happened in basketball, but hadn't happened in any other sport in that CJEP at the time, I believe. So I wasn't thinking too long-term at the time. I was too young to think long-term. I was very much in the year by year. This year, what do I do to maximize that year? and the following year and the following.
And how was the feeling to win your first provincial?
It's a good one because there was a team in specifically that year that we could not beat until the finals.
What team was that?
It was Dawson.
Dawson Community.
Coached by DeCarry Jarvis and Den.
Yeah. Shout out to DeCarry.
Or Denbrook had already moved on, but like it was that of Dawson Double A. They were in charge and all that, and I think they had beaten us twice in the regular season, in the regional final, and in the provincial final. Like we were ready, and our guys came out like, yeah. Guys came out. I'll leave it at that. That was one guy hit 6 3-pointers. Olivier Boyard had an all-around game. So to describe the feel, like, yeah, tears of joy. Everyone did, and you know, there was just like this weight that came off because you know, the year before we had lost in the provincial finals, and we had lost it in a very blah or very normal way. We just posed ourselves. It was just tie game, we would go up 6, tie game, we would go up 6, tie game, we'd go up 6. Once they went up 4, we lost by 8, and that was the game. And it was just like, oh, it's over. And then that's a loss that stuck with me. And it's like, okay, how can we avoid that? What was it that led to that? And you know, it's a lot of things that happened during the year as well. So you know, we always were thinking with the end goal, which was to win. We had already won regional championships. We had never won that provincial championship. So to finally win that one the first time, it was, I guess, a release of stress. Like we were all super happy. Everybody was yelling. The coaches were yelling, and yeah. So it was.
So I know you guys won after that. You guys. I don't know if, but I know you won a lot. How many banners did you win in D2? Provincial banners.
We won 7. We won 7 out of 9 or 8.
Yeah, that's something ridiculous. So, at what point were you like, you know what? I think it's the next step to make a jump to go to Division 1.
So, we had figured out, or we had developed a formula that was like, or an identity in that league, and I mean, there was all sorts of good teams giving us problems. Like one year would be Cégep de Rosemont with like 3 or 4 really, really good players that were borderline AAA level, and like they were in our way, and we would find a way to get past them. Like, so it's not like we were not blowing out the league. These were tight wins. Like the second championship we won in Jonquière, and there was like, it was against Jonquière in Jonquière, more veteran team, crowd was 99% theirs, and you know, we went and stole the championship. Like that's the feeling, right? We were pulling away at the end by 8 or 9. So I mean, we were winning, and when did it start to be like, hey, what can we do more? I mean, anytime you're building a program, now we were no longer in the short term, we were thinking long term, and it was like, okay, what can I bring new? What's the next step? So then we started to build a more competitive schedule outside of the league. Like we used to go to tournaments that were like juvenile and CJEP AA mixed. We would win them, sometimes comfortably, sometimes close. But it was like, okay, well, we need a better non-conference. So we're still AA, and we're starting to add prep school games to the schedule. We're starting to travel to the States. We're starting to add AAA teams from Montreal to the schedule. And we were starting to win against them. We got blown out in some of them. And then it's like, okay, well, that program exists in our city. They're in a different league. But there's no, what's holding me back from like trying to reach that level, regardless of the league I'm at?
Yeah.
Why can I build a program that's as reputable or as good as them, right?
Yeah.
So we start evaluating or comparing ourselves, and you know, we also started losing high school players to AAA programs, which you know, is fine. Everybody is free to choose, but some of them were going to AAA programs and not playing much, and they would have played more with us or whatever. But you know, sometimes you start to evaluate, and the school's losing student athletes to other schools. So now the school's on board to say, hey, what can we do to stop losing the students to other programs?
Yeah.
So that's where the project to go into Division I or AAA, it was called back then.
Okay. And during that time, there's a bunch of great players that you coach. What were you looking for, like when you were doing your recruitment?
So the two first things, like everybody's talented when they reach the CJEP level, so that goes without saying. Maybe we were looking at potential a lot more, like because we had our recruiting challenges. Maybe we would not go after the top dogs, so to speak, because we wouldn't have a chance, and maybe try to find the student athlete that was a little more overlooked, but we could see a potential, was a little longer, but wasn't as developed at that age. At 16, wasn't as developed as you know, maybe a Seth Amo or a Kenny Jean-Louis, for example, as a reference. So, you know, we're looking at the guys but might have an interesting potential. We'll take a chance on them. To come back to, you know, the two first points that are the most important is, you know, is that athlete passionate about his or her sport, and what's the work ethic like, you know? Do they get down on themselves easily after a mistake, or are they, you know, working possession after possession and just not wait, just, you know, and sometimes you can teach that attitude or that behavior or help them develop it, but having too many, there's also a fine line, right? Where do you know, how many can you take on where you have to, like, I don't know, teach how to work hard or whatever. So those would be the first things, those there was a true hunger behind it.
Okay.
Them playing. So
okay. I know Brebuef is one of the top schools academically. For sure, that must have, I guess, played a role in the recruiting process.
Yeah, it does. It can limit us in recruitment. This year, I found out that there's the thinking amongst high school kids that think that they need 85 or 87 average to get in, which it's the same reference for all CJEPs. It takes 70 to get into a certain program, 75 to get into another program. They do need to have a work ethic, and they do need to be able to work with a routine. Our school is very rigorous academic demands, and that pays off, I believe. I always believe that it pays off later on. It could be a struggle for them at first to adapt, but you know, CJEP everywhere is not a walk in the park. It's tough. It's you know, they're required to be independent a lot more all of a sudden than in high school, where there's generally more support. So, you know, you're evaluating the kid academically, and then you're also you're evaluating the athletic potential and the work ethic, right? Ethic and the desire to get better.
Do you think?
Go.
Yeah. Do you think? Because I know it's academically, Brebuef is like one of the tops, and also Brebuef also basketball is one of the top. How do you coach? How do you balance that, or how tell them to balance the academic side and the Brebuef part? Do you coach them differently, like each player? Depending on what they want.
Okay. Well, from a general standpoint, like if a student athlete is going to come play CJEP, they're going to have a course load that's not negligible, and they're going to have a practice load or practice schedule and game schedule that is big. So regardless of where you're going, you know, we have that discussion and I'm sure the other schools do too, is you got to make a decision. You know, there's certain things that you're going to have to prioritize between these months and these months, right? You know, 12 months. No, I mean, there's a lot of people saying it's a 12-month sport today. Sure, but it's not as intensive all 12 months, right? There is downtime, etc. So you build an annual schedule for them that's realistic, that allows them to cover all their needs. In the most intense part of this schedule, you will have discussions about prioritizing school and sports and family time, obviously. But you know, some things might have to be toned down. And then when you're more like in the transition phase or the off season downtime, you are going to have you're going to let go a bit more also. So coming back to the individual, obviously it's all about needs, you know. Just within the same practice, we might be working on different things with different individuals, you know. I sometimes show some of our guys how to use a proper running technique because they're not using their arms. They never learn how to use their arms properly while running. Some will, you know, be working on the left hand a lot more. Some will be working on catching the ball better, you know.
Yeah.
So we try to keep it going collectively, but we also try to adjust to each individual and depending on where they're at in their development stage.
Okay. And also, like, to build a great program like you guys have, you need good player, good coach. You need also good assistant coach. So what are you looking for, like, when you hire assistant coach?
Well, it's the same thing as with the players. Like, are they passionate? Are they willing to coach? Again, like I mentioned a bit earlier, you know, lots of coaches are coaching many teams at once. And unless you're doing that full time and like you're living off of coaching basketball, which I'm not and our assistant coaches aren't, I would encourage to only coach one team during a period of time. Because again, there's only so many times you can split yourself between players. And if you're coaching two teams, well, all of a sudden you got to think about 24 players instead of 12, you know? So that's number one, is availability. And are you going to coach 35 players? Are you going to concentrate on 12? You know, we'll prioritize a coach that can just concentrate on one team. The other thing is like a passion for the sport, obviously. And the other thing is like, you know, can we get along? Can we find that sweet spot between and also disagreeing on things? And that's super, super important. Like, we got to be able to challenge ourselves. We got to be able to question ourselves. Can it lead to conflict sometimes? Sure. But I think they don't want to work with yes people that just did nothing. But I also don't want to work with people that think out loud what they think, say out loud what they think as it arrives. Like, if you have a proposition, structure it and bring it forward. I do want to hear all opinions, right?
Yeah.
Structure it, you know.
Okay.
Let's have a discussion. I mean, I love the coaching discussions we have, you know, as we keep them efficient and short and snappy.
Is it hard to coach with your brother, or it's easy?
Actually, I would have thought, because we've butted heads so much, like we were so competitive towards one another when we were younger, but we have a lot of just natural discussions about coaching and about next year's team and about like it. I wouldn't say it's difficult.
Okay.
There's always a little, you know, I'm pretty sure the toughest part with the assistant coaches is always about substitutions.
Yeah.
That's always like the most sensitive subject. Like, if they tell me he looks tired, all right, that's clear, that's easy, bring him in. Those are always a little more sensitive conversations to have, especially in the heat of the moment, in the middle of the game. They're always, and I still welcome it though, right? I have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we set rules about when and where to intervene and how.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I know coaching the D2 team, the schedule's a lot stretched out, but and going to Division 1, the schedule's a lot tighter. So was that I guess challenging for you making that transition?
Absolutely. We used to joke that the Division 2 schedule was endless. Like the provincial championship would happen most often at the very earliest mid-April. Mid-April, we were playing our provincial championship. Right? In the Division 1 level, you're playing your provincial championship the first weekend of March.
Yeah.
And then if you move on to nationals, a week later, you're at nationals.
Yeah.
You haven't even played regional championships in the Division 2 level, and the D1 teams are in their off season, right?
Yeah.
And we had good players when we were playing Division 2 who were being recruited onto AAU teams, and like the D1 guys were already resting and getting ready for their AAU season, and we're still in our school season, getting for regional championships, and if we qualify, we win or whatever, we're getting ready for provincial championships 2 to 3 weeks after that. So big difference in terms of schedule. It took us a while to master it. Like our first year is a bit different because we brought in 8 new guys just for the first AAA year, and or Division 1, I should say. And so it took us a while to build chemistry and a style of play and all that. And we didn't peak for the playoffs. And the playoffs, the biggest thing with the Division 1 schedule is right after Christmas, you got like 7 weeks left. Everybody's on pause or whatever, and we're back from Christmas vacation, and your first practice is, I don't know, January 5th or whatever, and then February 29th or 28th is the quarterfinal, and then semis and finals. So it's a sprint. It's no longer a marathon. Like in the Division 2 level, we would really split the season in two. We had Christmas and after Christmas, and it was like 2 different seasons almost. We would try a bunch of stuff in the first half, and then in season 2 or part 2, it was like training camp again. And we were getting ready for like a few tough games in January, and then season plays started at the end of January. At the Division 1 CJEP level, within the first week of January, you're playing your first league game. So scheduling is very different. And our first years in Division 1, we were exploring too much still the first years, January. And you don't got time for that.
But your first years exploring, but you guys got really good really fast. Me thinking, especially when I was watching from the outside, I was like, oh, Brebuef is in Division 1 now. Because I heard about you guys in Division 2 for a long time. So then I'm like, okay, let's see how well they do. It did not take you very long. What was the secret to the success that you had very early?
There was luck. There was definitely luck. I mean, we took a gamble in our last Division 2 year. So when we got accepted to Division 1, we had a transition year. So we had to play one more Division 2 year that was imposed by the league. It was a new rule. And then we were jumping into Division 1 the year after. So we had purposely from the 2014 season, like that ended 2014, we did not recruit much into the last Division 2 year because we didn't know if we were going to have a Division 2 team once we were Division 1. And I didn't want to say goodbye to 10 players. So we left it a bit empty. The fridge was empty from one year to the next. And we barely scraped by in our last Division 2 year. Like, we won it all. We ended up clicking at probably our best level in terms of collectively, but we did have less talent. We found a way to squeak one more victory out. but that year it was like we were trying to maximize our last year in Division 2, and then it was all about recruitment for our first Division 1, and we got lucky. We didn't strike out on a lot, and we ended up bringing in 8 new guys. I didn't think we were going to bring in 8 guys. So we approached like, I don't know, 11 or 12, I don't remember, and like 8 of them said yes, we're coming here. So that helped a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
We took our licks that year. We took our licks that first Division 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we played very freely, but you know, without chemistry, that can hurt you. Like you know, it could go sideways fast. And we made playoffs. We were in the semifinals. We got destroyed in our semifinal that year. You know, nice little learning experience. We finished with the bronze that year, I believe.
Yeah.
And, yeah, but a lot of it had to do with recruitment luck.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was that feeling? Like I know there's like maybe 2 or 3 guys who only played Division 2 who went on to the States. So how was that feeling? Like you knowing, okay, that guy trust me and play AA, and after that went to the States, while there's maybe some guys who maybe went to other school and maybe didn't get the chance to go.
So our program turned around when we were able to get 2 or 3 key players to stay in the Division 2 level, but we had to back up our talk. You know, we were saying we can develop you, just it was a risk. We had to build a schedule, like we had to make up for it with a competitive non-conference schedule, and we also had to back it up with the development aspect. You know, we had to be available for them as long as they wanted to be in the gym individually, or someone had to be working with them. So it built on from there, and for them to have reached a high university level, you know, it was very rewarding. And it was also like, okay, I wasn't crazy to think, because a lot of people called us crazy back then to be recruiting players of that caliber, and for them to reach that level or a certain elite level after going through our program, even if it was Division 2, was rewarding. And it gave me a bit of peace, like, all right, my method can always get better, but my method works. Like, improve it every year, but that feeling was good, to answer your question shortly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I know you guys, I'm not sure, but because I've been to 2 provincial finals of you guys. I think one versus Momo. Mm-hmm. And the second one I went to a little bit, was the Vanier this year that just passed. Yeah. How do you stay motivated? You guys are almost there, but don't, you know, get it all.
In terms of keep going?
Yeah.
Motivation comes from within, right? So again, it's all about what your goals are. My goals are to provide the most university off season that will never end, regardless of our talent level, regardless if we're challenging for a championship that season next. My goal is still to do the best and develop, you know, the best possible student athlete coming out, and him having university opportunities. So that doesn't change regardless of what's going on at the end of the provincial playoffs. It can be tough to stay to stay motivated, or quote unquote, you could feel sorry for yourself losing some tight finals, but you know, I got to give my hats off to the opponent as well, right? Like, we lost to Vanier this year, and they were a fantastic team. Let's call it what it is, you know. Like, they were really good. They were talented, well prepared, well coached. You know, veteran team. I don't need to go over their whole roster, but their roster presented a lot of problems, and so that helps me stay motivated, because it's like we're just there, and we'll break through, and and now is not the time to let go. There's a quote that the Spurs used to that I don't know if they still use it. They like to use it's the rock breaker quote, and it's something that goes along like a rock breaker will hit a stone 100 times, and the stone will finally break on the 100th time. But make no mistake, it's the 99 hits that happened before, and not the 100th hit that finally break. Something like that. I'm not doing the quote justice, but that's something that I've identified with very early on, very early. And Kenny asked, like, mentorship, like, now that comes to mind, like, eventually Popovich, I was all in on Popovich's coaching methods, his strategies. It's a system that I studied, but also like how he coached his guys, right? So it looks like he's the most tough guy on NBA guys right now, and the guys respond to it, right? And these are superstar athletes. And you see, like, the guys are responding to his quote unquote tough love coaching. And, it's just, is it tough love coaching, or is he just demanding, and he set standards for his players and he's not going to bend them, right? And there's no doubt that, they love each other and the relationship is rock solid. So, first I was looking at the tactics of the Spurs, and then I was looking at how, they are as a group and as a staff in terms of coaching attitude and demanding character and all that. So, we could feel sorry for ourselves after losing a few tight ones, or we could keep going and getting better and learning from it.
Okay.
This season is a little different because this season's a little different because we were thinking we were going to get another crack. Like when the provincials finished, we knew we weren't done, and we were going to nationals. It was a very confident group and a very confident staff, and we were ready. And then nationals got canceled because there are things more important, right?
So how, with everything that's happening right now, how do you stay in touch with your team, and do you give them workout, or how do you stay in touch?
So we created a few workouts for them to use with or without a hoop, depending on their accessibility to a hoop. Obviously, the first weeks, or I would even say month, it was very tough because no one was sure, like, are you allowed to go outside and this and that. So we would meet on Zoom, have team meetings. We would have phone calls with each individual. Nowadays, we've loosened up a bit. Our guys, or our students, finally finished their semester 2 days ago. Finally done with school as of 2 days. So now we're going to look at what we can do more now going forward. I think, we can still work out outside as long as we're safe. So we're gonna build a schedule. The weight room won't be accessible for a long time, I'm hearing. So we're gonna have to get creative with adapting to that. So and you know what? Some downtime isn't a bad thing, right? And a lot of these guys finally got a mental break, and because they live in a world where it's just go nonstop, and they don't really get a mental break. Very few do. So the downtime might have helped a lot. They might be less in shape cardio wise, but that's not a bad thing maybe in the long run.
Yeah, that's true.
And one of the last questions, you've coached some great players have come through Brebeuf in and out. All the great, like from Joseph to like that kid that's playing right now on your team.
Sebastian Lamotte.
Sebastian, yeah. So there's been all around. What's the most common thing they all have, I guess, in common? Their basketball and their work ethic.
So they come in different sizes and athleticism, and they're all different, right? Some are tall, some are shorter, some are more athletic, some are less. The one thing that they do have in common is their approach to the game, and when they're on the court, they don't waste time. And then when they're off the court, they also know how to have a good time and all that, and it's important. And if they feel they didn't get enough out of a workout, they're the ones that come to an assistant coach or the coach and says, what do you think I should work on next for 15, 20 minutes? They come back for more. So I would say that's what they have most in common. Funny anecdote, like one of our guys that ended up playing Division I, Nemanja Zarkovic, we were in our D2 season, we were in between our regionals and provincials, we were preparing. And a recruiter was in the crowd, well, not in the crowd, but in the gym. And we're going through our preparation, and Nemanja just goes up to him and says, can we play so I can show what I can do? Can we just play? I'm like worried about injuries or whatever. And he told me that, can we compete? Even though we had just played regional playoffs. I was like, all right. Just because of the way he said it and demanded it, I trusted it. And he ended up missing like 3 shots in 2 hours. And at the end of the practice, and these were all threes. And coach got up and said, I'm offering you a scholarship. It's just, there's a lot of mental to that, right? So that's what I would say.
Okay. Puis moi, dernière question, peut-être c'est maybe off subject, off topic. With what happened with George Floyd, like you having like a, I guess, black player in your team, do you have the conversation with him with like le racisme or like?
So it's a very obviously it's a sensitive subject for everybody, and me being the position that I'm in, I've grown up in a multicultural neighborhood most of my childhood, so I didn't see race. Right? I had friends of all colors. So, and I was also a naive, innocent boy, right? So, I was naive to it, right? And then I've been coaching for 15 years and some teams have been more diverse than not. And I've always coached them the same way, right? Everybody's the same to me. But with what's been happening recently, I've definitely had conversations in the past. It did not take this tragedy to happen. Like I've had conversation with friends and coaches on staff that have shared some experiences. So, I don't know what your question was specifically, but are conversations happening? Yes. The degree of conversation varies because the degree of comfort varies. So like I have a lot of black players on my team, but I can't approach them. Like I offer it to them, but I can't say, let's go talk about this and this and that. Like I don't impose it is what I'm saying. I'm ready to have it. I do want to have it, but I'm not, forcing it upon them either. But it is a subject that's floating around and has floated around a bit in the past few months and years, because there's other things that have happened also, even locally. So the conversations do come up on bus rides, and when we're traveling to the States for 6 hours, some conversations go there, and the depth of the conversation is so impressive sometimes. Like I forget, like these are 17, 18-year-olds, and the depth of the conversation that comes out, and I'm just like, wow, this is great, and
yeah, it's very tough situation right now we're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question.
No,
it does.
No,
It does.
yeah, it does. C'est juste que moi, je voulais juste savoir, comme, quand tu les coaches, peut-être, des fois, tu sais, ou peut-être tu sais pas qu'est-ce qui se passe dans leur vie personnelle. So, je voulais juste savoir, comme... Mais c'est une bonne réponse.
It goes back to that trust, the trust factor of the relationship. So with a kid that's barely new in the team, it's going to be a little tougher to approach the person with a sensitive subject. Like they're going to be like, well, I barely know you also. That's just human nature. And with players that we have a more developed relationship, we're going to go there and we're going to share. So, it comes back to trust as well. And yeah, so it's definitely coming. And as adults, or as responsible adults, we also gotta be aware and keep an eye on what we're responsible for going forward in this movement. I mean, to me, the reaction to what happened, I've teared up quite a few times watching videos, and I'm not there, right? Like I wasn't able to participate in the walk that happened last Sunday. I do intend to go to the one on Sunday morning, although there's now 2 separate events that are happening at the same time. So I don't know which one to choose. I was following it on Facebook Live, and I was getting emotional, and I mean, if you're a decent human being, I mean, it's gonna affect you. I don't care what background you're from.
Well, listen, Mike, I appreciate your time here talking to us about basketball and your insights and inputs, your history behind bringing Brebuef to where it is right now, and just telling us how you went from, I guess, playing into coaching and the path that you went through, the struggles and challenges. I appreciate your time here and talking to us about it. I really appreciate it.
Merci.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Mike, merci d'avoir accepté l'invitation. C'est sûr, il y a beaucoup de personnes qui vont apprendre de qu'est-ce que tu nous as dit pendant cette heure-là. Donc, merci encore d'avoir accepté.
Thank you. And for our listeners listening, don't forget to subscribe. Once again, I'm Seth Moa, a.k.a. SA.
Kenny Jean-Louis, a.k.a. KJL.
And stay tuned on our next episode.